There's an old issue that's come up in the light of the WA elections in March, and I wanted to deal with it directly. And the trigger, in a way, has been Craig Kelly and the media. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of Craig Kelly. There's a lot of things that he says I don't agree with. And I've certainly not looked at his Facebook page or viewed his other material. But mainstream journalists have been rushing to criticise him. And I listen every Sunday morning to the insiders, and that's all they did in the little section of the program devoted to him was criticise. But you know, I've never heard any of these well-respected journalists ask the simple question, is what he said correct? They just simply assume, because it's not the line promoted by the orthodox local health authorities in Australia, that his statements are wrong. That is not good journalism. And this attitude graphically highlighted to me the real problem we've had with the COVID-19 response in Australia as well as in many other countries. We have not been told all the facts. As stated in the Health Australia Party Way Out statement, the medical response to COVID-19 has been directed by people trained in the pharmaceutical paradigm, and the politicians and the mainstream media in this country and in many others have just unquestionably followed this approach. And as a result, countries like Australia have been denied the use of well-tested, safe, inexpensive, proven natural medicines for both treatment and prevention. And these are things which have been used by medical doctors and trained natural therapists in other countries, and they've been used by some governments in other countries. For example, treatments. Now, Kelly mentioned a range, some of which we covered in our statement, but to give you some simple examples, vitamin D, one of the most straightforward and obvious things to give to elderly people, especially those in poor health, it has been shown time and time again to reduce the severity of any infections, to keep people out of ICUs. Intravenous vitamin C is a proven remedy to be used in viral infections. Iodine supplementation and other nutritional recommendations have been shown to be of great value, and there are other forms of treatment shown in the Way Out statement. Now, prevention, of course, is something that I personally have been working with since 1985, a long time. Our Prime Minister, Morrison, proudly stated that his government had committed $6.3 billion to vaccines against COVID. However, he was certainly not told that the entire population of Australia could have been immunised against COVID-19 by the end of April 2020 for around about $200 million, with a zero risk of deaths or toxic side effects, and with a demonstrated effectiveness in the real world, not in trials, but in the real world of around 90%. So what do we get for our $6.3 billion? Why have we expended $6 billion more than we needed to on experimental vaccines and untested technology, which may be of limited effectiveness? You know, I subscribe to Lancet, and on the 6th of February this year, there was a letter, resurgence of COVID-19 in Manaus, Brazil, despite high seroprevalence. In other words, they looked at people where they'd done blood tests. I think around 70% had antibodies for COVID-19. But the new strain, these people were not immune. So even though they'd had an infection with COVID-19, they were not immune to the new strain that's over in Brazil. And this has got obvious consequences for vaccines, of course, because vaccines rely on a lock and key approach. The strain used in the vaccine has to be pretty much able to lock and key with the strain in the community, otherwise it doesn't provide protection. And the 23 authors of the article said, or the letter said, this was unexpected and of concern. And if you want to follow this up yourself, you can look at the Lancet reference there. So where does the Health Australia Party stand on vaccination? We have been accused incorrectly of being an anti-vax party. Was happened at the previous election, 2016, and we took the age to the Press Council of Australia, and they agreed that the statement that the Age had made, the headline that the Health Australia Party was an anti-vax party, breached 2 of their 4 principles. We believe in informed choice. And specifically, if we're talking about COVID-19, if people wish to be vaccinated, that should be their right. And if people want to immunise in other ways or not immunise at all, certainly not be vaccinated, that should also be their right, without any penalty. We were the first political party to oppose the no jab, no pay and no jab, no play legislations because they were not scientific. They were not based on genuine science. And we were the first political party to oppose mandatory medical interventions, which including the COVID-19 vaccinations. This does not mean we are an anti-vax party, and if any journalist or state premier or anyone else says otherwise, then they are ill-informed and they are wrong. We support genuine science, and that should mean an open, honest, transparent, comprehensive public review of all options regarding a topic, free of the pharmaceutical filter, which has been and is being applied to health matters in Australia. Asking reasonable questions does not mean a person is a mindless, unscientific anti-vaxxer. Legislation should be based on genuine science and not biased preconceptions, as is so often the case, and was the case with the no jab, no pay, no jab, no play legislations. To close down genuine debate is the sign of a captured and impotent media and a failing democracy, not a thriving one. But we are allowing this to happen in Australia, which is why the Health Australia Party is asking you to support our candidates in the March WA elections. Until we have people who can stand up in Parliament and give simple, honest, truthful descriptions of health issues, we will be a lesser country than we should be and that we can be. Thank you.